Hello, it's Lou Collins, and today I've got another template for you from Craft World. We are looking at a shadow box template. Now this is a fantastic three-dimensional card that will stand up on its own and you can pop absolutely anything you like inside it. I'm going to keep mine quite simple, but you can actually make this as intricate and layered as you want to, and I'll explain that as we go through. So you'll have your template that you've printed off from Craft World. You can see the link in with this video, so if you have missed that, go and download that, print it off at home, and then what I tend to do is stick this to my cardstock that I want to make my base from. There is another video on Craft World telling you exactly how to make the most of your printable templates and how to work with them, so refer to that if you've not used one before. So I have cut out the panels here. These two are fairly simple. I just can cut them out with scissors or with a straight trimmer. And then this panel I have cut out by hand using a craft knife. But alternatively, if you'd rather, and you have one, a nice frame die in there would also do the same job. So you can cut through the front to make it an oval, a rectangle, a curved edge frame shape like this. It's entirely up to you. You don't have to follow the exact detail of the template. The cut lines and the score lines are the most important part. And talking of score lines, I've gone around the edge and just scored all of those dotted lines there. So now I just need to remove my template. I always use a repositionable spray, and this just means I can remove my template afterwards. I just have to be very careful about peeling that off so I don't tear the paper. And then that remains sticky because it's removable and reusable. I can pop that onto a piece of acetate or something similar and use that again. There. So I have got all my score lines. Now for scoring this, or rather for folding this, is very simple. What we're going to do is have two wings at the side, and they're going to be your end panels, so these need to stick out. So taking the solid piece first of all, imagining this is your back panel. You've got your middle section, that's going to be at the back, and then each of the side pieces want to come up like so, and then out. So we'll then fold these outwards, each of them there. So you can see we've got this shape. Now we're going to do the opposite with the front panel. So this is my front panel. So this bit wants to be forward. These next middle lines want to be backwards, like so, and then out again. So concertina fold these. Unless you're using a single-sided coloured cardstock, it's not the end of the world if you fold these the wrong way. So you can see there you've got two sections. They look like almost like little banners, and the side, the wings as we'll call them, can then stick together. And that's what you're going to do once you have all your decoration in place. And hopefully you can see there we've got our shadow box really quick and easy, and because of the depth of this, that will stand on its own. Now I would suggest decorating this before you glue it together, because you're going to have elements that you want to put inside. So for example, I've cut out this background panel. This is from a paper pad from Made to Surprise, and I've just trimmed this down to size already. And you can of course use the template that you've already used once before to create a panel there. So it would be this center solid piece to cut the right size background if you wanted to, just to make things a little bit easier and neater for you. But I would suggest making it maybe a millimetre smaller on each of the edges, just to ensure that you're still able to fold your panel easily. It doesn't get in the way of those creases. So just gluing that down, and you can see when we pop that on there, we've got a lovely scene inside, and then we need to build up the rest of the card. So I've got some elements here that I'm going to decorate my card with. They are a little deer, and the little deer has come from the double slider collection from Made to Surprise. I've got the stamp and the die set. Now this is a spring, summertime, woodland scenes set, but the deer of course works perfectly for winter scenes as well. So I've stamped, die cut that, just used some pencils to give it a little bit of colour. And then I've got some Christmas trees. Now these have come from the Nestables from Creative, and this is the Christmas tree die set. So I've taken the two second from smallest dies and cut a few of those from green cardstock. Now to add some snow to these, I'm going to add some glue first of all. Of course you're going to have snow on the top, but then also on the tips of each of the branches, and this is just using a fine glue applicator here. Not sure how much you can see the detail in there. We're going to want to come across the bottom, and it doesn't have to be perfect, it can be a staggered line, and then some lines following the lines roughly of the points at the side there, just to add some lines. And what I'm going to do is, rather than cover that in glitter, because I find glitter is very often a little bit too translucent for snow, I'm going to use embossing powder, but I'm not going to heat the powder. So I'm just going to allow it to stick to the glue, tap off all the excess, and then when that's dried, that will all be glued on there. And it's actually quite dimensional, which I love about that. So I'm just going to do the other 3 trees in the same way. I'm going to work very carefully here because my glue is still wet. I'm going to trim down one of these trees, so trimming it from the bottom upwards, and I can save this. I might be able to use this bit as well. And I'm going to place this tree on this side, just inside, so it's not a full tree taking up all of the scene. And I'm going to use, rather than a wet glue, just get my foam tape here, and I'll put my tape down on the scene here because, like I say, my glue is wet on my tree, so I want to handle that as little as possible. Hopefully just check that, make sure that's in the right position. Yep, that will all be hidden. Oops. And then carefully take off the backing. Place our first tree down. Now keep coming back to your scene and deciding whether you want more or less in there. Now I may put the deer in front, I may actually put the deer inside. I think I'm going to go with in front for this one. So working out my scene, I'm going to do another park Christmas tree, one of the larger ones, and put that on the front here. This can glue on flat. Of course, if you want to do any inking of the edges and things like that, that will really help your frame, your card base stand out. Just being extra careful whilst that glue is still drying. And I'm going to put my deer over the top. It's going to overlap my card actually, just like so. So a little bit of foam tape on the body. Place that just over the tree. Now we can just build up with a few more trees as we wish. So I'm going to put another one inside here. So I'm going to bring in a chunkier foam tape just to put on the back of this tree because it's going to go over the top of some of that embossing powder there. So just to make sure I get a good grip, I'm using a wider tape and overlap that tree just there. So we've got a baby tree. We can put this one in as well in the background. This one's just going to be glued down so it looks like it's a little bit further behind. And then I'm going to put one more tree just on the front of the card here. I might just take, I think I'll put that like so. So just take the trunk off and just have it sitting in the snow. There, so some glue on that one. Okay, so now we've got the main elements together there to build up our scene. We need to now glue our card base together. I've got a spare half a tree, but that's fine. I can use that on another project. So what we want to do is just glue this back panel here. Now, if you remember from earlier, I was calling these the wings because they do look like wings sticking out of the sides. So plenty of wet glue. You could use a double-sided tape if you prefer to have something that grips much faster. And we're just going to line those up and pinch them together. There we go. Now if I lift that up, as you can see, you should have that shape, that box, that shadow box shape of card base there. Doesn't that look fantastic? So it stands up on its own. I will pop a little sentiment on there as well, a Christmas sentiment. You can pop some gems and things on there as well, but that is just a lovely card. Now the beauty of this as well is that it all folds flat, and there's different ways you can do that. So you can either flatten it this way by squeezing it completely, or you can make it so that it folds on the side like so. So you'll need to just flatten it that way. Okay, so it's entirely up to you which way you want to do it when you come to putting it in a card or in an envelope, but either way I think a box for this is going to be absolutely perfect. It will look much better if it's in a box rather than flattened into an envelope.